Sensors measured all the clouds above then. President Trump officially declared war on the left, with the White House stating they would identify and destroy them. This isn't just a political dispute, it could mark the start of future American societal division. Let's examine this topic today. Everything began with the assassination of Charlie Coca. American society was already polarized, but the real divide began after Charlie Coca's assassination. The Trump administration publicly declared this in the United States. They defined the assassination of Charlie Coca as an organized act of terror by left-wing groups, and declared that they would mobilize all resources to identify and destroy the left-wing network. It's still unclear what exactly they mean by the left-wing network and terrorism. Vice President J.D. Vance said at the White House he would pursue left-wing networks linked to violence while hosting the Charlie Coca Show, formerly run by Charlie Coca. He also stated that he would mobilize all resources from the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the entire government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these organizations. On that day, top White House officials like the president's chief and deputy chief of staff appeared on the podcast. You could see how highly the Trump administration regarded Charlie Coca. After that, the Trump administration seemed to take full-scale action, using the Charlie Coca assassination case as the reason. According to a New York Times report, the Trump cabinet is currently compiling a list of left-wing organizations, and it was also reported that their goal is to classify these leftist activities as domestic terrorism. Vice President J.D. Vance also made similar remarks. President Trump said the radical left caused Charlie Coca's death and pledged to investigate who organized and funded them. This has raised concerns in several places. It's shocking that this is nearly the first time since the 1950s the White House has officially stated an intent to eliminate the left. In recent American history, it's unusual for a political leader to openly call a faction the enemy and seek their elimination. This statement carries more than political rhetoric. It sends a message that shakes all of society. Many people think of McCarthyism, which shook America in the 1950s. Anyone who voiced even mild criticism of the system, including artists, scholars, and journalists, was labeled a communist and harshly repressed. Many people lost their jobs, were denied work in movies or broadcasting, and were often isolated from their families. An entire generation had to live in fear, constantly censoring themselves. Those watching the current situation are worried that the nightmare from back then might be starting all over again. The Trump administration's move to label left-wing networks as enemies and even accuse the media and civic groups of being terrorist organizations is enough to remind people of McCarthyism from over 70 years ago. This time, anxiety is rising because concerns go beyond ideological vetting or social stigma, including possible use of military force, major lawsuits, and forced dissolution. Still, President Trump is acting against media outlets and some regions despite these concerns. President Trump called the New York Times a radical left spokesperson and sued for $15 billion, about $20.7 trillion won. President Trump posted on Truth Social on September 15th, calling it an honor to file a $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. President Trump also harshly criticized the New York Times, calling it one of the worst and most corrupt newspapers in United States history. President Trump filed this lawsuit a week after the New York Times reported on September 8 about an obscene letter he previously sent to billionaire sex offender Epstein. United States Secretary of State Rubio also said steps are being taken to deport foreigners celebrating Charlie Coke's death. Secretary of State Rubio posted on X on September 15 that the United States will not accept foreigners who celebrate Americans' deaths. He said visa cancellations are ongoing and warned that anyone celebrating the death in the United States could face deportation. These actions are also targeting Americans. Though not deported, those speaking positively about Charlie Coke's death face retaliation. Conservative groups keep filing complaints, causing teachers, public officials, and news panelists to be fired or disciplined. And not only that, President Trump has deployed the military to Los Angeles and Washington District of Columbia, and now he has also decided to send military and federal agents to Memphis, Tennessee, another Democratic stronghold. The Trump administration portrays the Charlie Coke assassination case as partisan, stepping up attacks on progressives. President Trump said he would send the National Guard to tackle Memphis's serious crime problem, marking the third deployment of the National Guard to a United States city. These areas are Democratic strongholds, and critics say this targets the progressive camp. President Trump said after the National Guard is deployed to Memphis, the next deployment will be to Chicago, the political hometown of former President Obama. Consequently, progressive backlash is increasing. Above all, what made people most angry was seeing an ordinary YouTuber, not even a soldier, being encouraged and greeted by official military honor guards. Normally, such honors are reserved only for soldiers who gave their lives for the country or for national heroes, but the fact that these same honors were given to a person with clear political leanings has sparked public outrage. Progressive figures are questioning if military honor guards are being used for political propaganda. There is growing concern that the moment the symbolism and honor of the military are used as a political weapon by a particular faction, the principles that American society has upheld could collapse. Another criticism targets possible misuse of political violence. At progressive rallies, slogans like, "We don't support violence, but won't stay silent against power-suppressing democracy," are often chanted. The citizens who remain are sending a dual message. They oppose violence, but at the same time, they criticize the government's excessive response. This shows the situation is shifting from a clash to a deeper issue of political legitimacy. Moving Park's coffin sparked controversy. This is because, with many White House officials and military generals in attendance, the atmosphere was essentially that of a national hero's funeral. The progressive camp objected, claiming they were politicizing a person's death. Critics say moments meant for mourning personal tragedies in the United States are becoming platforms for political mobilization and loyalty. The progressive camp's core message is simple. Political violence is clearly wrong, but that doesn't mean it should be used as a justification for further violence and oppression. The wound left on American society by the assassination of Talikock has not yet healed, and the concern from the progressive camp is that if that pain is used as a stepping stone to strengthen power, it will inevitably lead to further division and hostility. As a result, the current political polarization in the United States is more severe than ever before. As I said before, the cycle of retaliation between camps keeps spreading like dominoes, and it's not just among politicians. It is deeply penetrating into people's daily lives, dividing workplaces and communities, and even extending to families and personal relationships. First of all, in the workplace, there have been a series of cases where employees who express certain political views are being fired or excluded from promotions. After the Talikock incident, teachers, public officials, and office workers who criticized or mocked the post publicly are being fired because of their social media activity. Companies and institutions claim political neutrality as their justification, but controversy is growing because, in reality, they often take personnel actions under pressure from Trump's supporters. Local communities face similar issues, with churches, schools, and gatherings splitting over politics. For example, gatherings both supporting and criticizing Trump's hardline statements are increasingly clashing within the same neighborhood. This goes beyond simple differences of opinion and is leading to a breakdown in relationships between neighbors. People say, that person supports Trump. Households labeled pro-Trump are increasingly excluded from gatherings or face disadvantages. These conflicts are even clearer at political rallies and protests. Following Charlie Cox's assassination, the right-wing protests left-wing terrorism, while the left-wing holds counter-rallies against Trump's dictatorship and censorship. While protests haven't turned violent, tensions remain very high. Experts caution that a prolonged standoff could let even minor incidents escalate into major violence. Charlie Cox's assassination wasn't just an individual loss, it sent a political shockwave through American society. The aftermath is causing workplace firings, censorship, community divisions, and rising protests, increasing social distrust and hostility. There are growing fears that an unseen civil war may have started as American society becomes more polarized. We're seeing signs of division. What are your thoughts on America's current situation? Share in the comments. Thanks, that's all for this video.